everybody, it's Bruce and the dog on the floor, and today we are talking about the exciting boundary. And this is the part where the Tetris game really starts looking like there's something interesting happening. So what's happening is that we've already worked the out of bounds conditions, and now we're starting to work with some of the collision conditions. Right now we have the collision condition where we kind of stack to the where we kind of create a new tetromino at the bottom. But this is what's going to happen. So let's say that we have an L shape and it wants to move down, but there's already a box right there, so we can't move down. But this is what's going to happen. We're going to take that L shape. We're going to make the computation of this thing move down, but you can see that the lower right completely overlaps with the point that's already there. So we can't make that move. So what's going to happen is we're going to bail. We're going to abort that move, so retaining the old value. But then we need to do two things. We need to move that old tetromino into the junkyard. So that's called the merge. And then we need to create a new one. So let's see how that's going to work. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these points and we're going to add them to the graveyard one at a time. So maybe a good way to do this is to write a reducer that actually maps over each of the points of the new points. And of the points, new points in the graveyard, it kind of maps over it and adds each one of those to a map. Or maybe we just use a map.merge. So let's try that approach. Okay, so here's our game, and let's say Elixir Map Merge. So this is going to take a map. It's going to basically take two maps and merge them together efficiently. So all we need to do is build a map out of our existing ones. And so the way that this usually works is that we're going to have something of this shape, and eventually we want it to add it. This has a shape. That's basically what we're going to wind up with. We're going to wind up with a few of these. But when you're building a map from scratch, what you often do is build a list of these things that looks like this, right? So now this is a two-tuple, right? So I have the point and the shape. So that's what we're going to do. So let's say the old points, and then we're going to take the old, we're going to pipe that to tetromino. Remember, this is the one that rotates us, moves us, and adds the color. So that has what we need. And then we're going to map over those. And we're going to build a list. And we're going to pipe that into map.new. And so what does our function do? So our function is going to have a point with an X, Y, and a color, a shape. And it's going to build a tuple out of that. And this is a point, which is X, comma Y, and this is going to have a shape. So basically, we're going to build a list of two tuples, and actually, you know what we could do? We could just say enum.into, and then game.graveyard. Right? So all this will do is drop these into the new graveyard. So this is actually the graveyard. The new graveyard. The new graveyard, we start with the old points. We pipe it through not shape, we pipe it to show, right? And then we map over those and build the two tuples that have the key and the value that we want. And then we just add that to the existing graveyard. And so now all we have to do is return this thing. All we have to do is return the game, and that has a new graveyard. Beautiful. So let's take a look at how that is going to work out. It's a good time to stop and take stock. And then we'll try to make this compile and look at it from our live view and see if our graveyard is growing in an appropriate way. Okay, here we go. So we need to see if this compiles. Oh, look at all those errors in there. Okay, I'm going to take this back and compile and reload. All right, that looks like it's working. These are coming down. And so right now, one of the things that's happening, I wonder if we're crashing when we hit the bottom, when we hit that merge. Let's see. Boom, crash. Yes. So this is actually going to break when it hits the merge. And now all we need to do is check to see what kind of error that we get. So the graveyard is not found in the game. Oh, it's a junkyard, not the graveyard. Okay, so we were a little bit too sinister with our naming. So this is a junkyard. That's also a junkyard. That's also a junkyard. Okay. Let's see if this works now. So now we're going to hit the bottom. I don't know if I have to reload this or not. Yeah, maybe I do. Okay, and let's see if we get the same type of error. Okay, so that's progress. So we're getting a different error. Graveyard not found. Oh, so let's just pop this and go on trying. Okay, so this is starting over. And let's see if we still have a broken key in there. So yeah, it's still graveyard not found. So did we save this? Oh, look at that. Game.junkyard. Okay. Okay, let's see if we're okay now. Okay, is this the same kind of problem? Key graveyard not found, so let's just reload this. Let's look for, go to our code. And then we should probably make a look at the top and see, yep, it's a junkyard here. And so I'm gonna make sure everything is restarted and everything is working clean for me. So when this hits the bottom, we'll either fail or succeed. Okay, so it didn't look like we had a crash that time. But if you'll notice, we're not yet printing the best information for us. What we'd like to see is the whole game, the state of the whole game. So let's go to the live view. And you can see that in the live view, we're actually rendering as code just the inspect game.tetra. Well, we could actually inspect the whole game there and see what that does for us. Okay, here's the junkyard. It's empty. And let's see if we get something dropped into there. Okay, yeah. So there's 419, a 520, 619, and yeah, so this is great. It keeps adding to the bottom of our junkyard. And now all we have to do is be able to render those things. Okay, so we're rendering points here. So we probably need something in our game to convert the graveyard to points. So we are rendering the points right here. And basically, this would be more interesting. So the game.points plus, and then we have game not the graveyard, the junkyard. Junkyard, right? And so since we don't have the game junkyard, this is going to break. This is not going to compile. The game.junkyard. Okay, so I haven't saved this yet, so we're okay. But if I save this, so now this is going to break. Yeah, so this is undefined function game. So game live 41. And this is going to be at game like that. Okay, so now we need to write this function that will give us points, the points of the graveyard. Okay, that should be relatively straightforward to do because we already have the graveyard in a point at a point that it does something that's the graveyard has a shape that's relatively easy to convert to points. We kind of built it that way. Right, so here is where we merge everything in. So this is basically what we're building. We're building the key value pair like this. And actually, if we enumerate over it, we're also going to get something like this. So junkyard. So we need to check how we refer to that in the live view. So what did we do? Game.junkyard. Let's call that junkyard points. So game points, and this is going to take a game. So this is a converter, right? So remember the types of functions that we have. Basically, one of them is a constructor, one of them is a reducer. We're actually building a converter to convert from one kind of main type to another. And so all we're going to do is take the game dot the graveyard junkyard, and we're going to map over those, and that's going to take a function, and the function is really going to have x, y, and then we're going to instead take an x, y, and a shape like that. This could also, yeah, I think that's exactly what we want. And this is an end. So that probably is going to do what we want. So now we could take this and let's see if we start rendering these. Yeah, so look, that's stacking right up on there. And we could start to see how the game is played now. So it goes all the way to the bottom, right? So we're not tracking collisions correctly. So that's probably a really great next step for next time. We'll actually take these things and make sure that they don't go all the way to the bottom. And I had a crash there, but that's because I pressed a key. But they don't go all the way to the bottom. They need to stop when they hit other points. And actually, if we build that kind of collision into our valid move, our points.valid, the nice thing is that it's not going to let us go left or right into something, and it's also not going to let us rotate into something. So that's a great thing to look forward to. So from Bruce and the dog on the floor, this is Groxio Learning.